Oh, 1, 2, 3. We are not live. We are not live, but we are alive, Gary. Hello, lovely Gary.
Hello, Rachel. How are you?
Is it Santa Claus today? I'm not so sure. I'm very well, my love. Thank you very much. And hello to you, lovely YouTuber. Well, today there is no crafty thing for you. However, we are going to give you 12 gifts of Christmas. Yes, we have got gifts for the sewist, for the artist, or just anyone who is generally creative, because some tools go across both disciplines. So that is coming up in today's Tea Time tutorial. But of course, if you want to do something crafty, we have got over 70 videos in our collection, our Tea Time tutorial, so you can just hit one of those videos right now. But of course, if we're giving you some great gift ideas, we would love it if you would give us the thumbs up still. And if you subscribe to the channel, even better, and ding-a-ling-a-ling, hit the bell, because then you'll be notified when we put our content out, which is every single Friday. Now, what I will try and do is put some time codes below. So if we do like books, I'll write books, and if we do some paints, I'll do paints. And then if you just want to go to that particular section, you can. But if I were you, I'd listen to the whole 12 ideas, because we've got some really good ones, haven't we, lovely Gary? We have. We've been searching our brains.
We have. And I just think, this time of year, coming to a seasonal time of year, to buy people gifts, like, what do I get them? Especially, what have they got already? Most people have got loads of stuff, or they can go out and get it themselves. So you've got to be a bit careful, a bit subversive with your presents. That's what I think. So I've got some ideas here by the side of me, and I know you've got some ideas also. So hopefully between us, I think we should get a little group of quite interesting presents for people.
Yeah, well, I have to say, Gary, when you were going through your things and you were showing me them, I was going, oh, I wouldn't have thought of that. There are some obvious things, but you were sort of going at that, and I was like, well, that's a really good idea. I didn't know that existed. And then I've come up with some books, and you've come up with some books as well. So I just think this is so hard, isn't it? But one thing I do want to say about Christmas, and this is, we said we weren't going to do mindfulness, but we'll just do a second on it, is that I do think a lot of people are sort of, saying this year, I'm not buying gifts, I'm not doing it, da, 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 da. And I think actually, as time has gone on, certainly for me, Christmas is not about gifts and ramming as much food down your face as you can. Well, actually, no, I disagree with that one. It's quite nice to ram as much food down your face. But, I do think it is about your friends and your family. And that's why I like the gifts that we've chosen today, because actually they are really sort of stocking fillers. They're not all going to break the bank. We're not suggesting you buy a huge easel that's going to cost £350 for someone. These are just lovely little gifts. And I think the royal family have got it right. If it's true what they say, that at Christmas they have to buy something silly for each other, as shown in the crown, so it must be true, then I think that is actually a really great idea.
And you don't want Christmas time and buying presents and gifts for people to be stressful, and because it can be. And can I afford it? Can I afford to buy presents, or do I put a meal on the table? Well, I must tell you, one of the most memorable presents, Christmas presents that I had from it was from my grandmother. I think I've said before that she came from a sewing background. Shirts came in a box. It's lovely, a shirt. So it was an empty shirt. Well, was empty. She filled it with real practical things to get me started sewing. So, all those bits and pieces, which I'll show some of them in a minute, to just think, well, if you've got a creative person, a younger person, also it doesn't have to be younger, but someone that's sort of saying, well, I'd like to start sewing, think about getting a box, a basket or something, and just filling it with lots of practical things. In this basket, there was bits of fabric as well as some of the tools to do the sewing with, but it all there just to get you started. And it is a present that I have never forgotten, that got me started on the journey, which I am on still.
And look at you now. So look at you, YouTuber. You could be a YouTuber in 20 years when someone has bought you that present. I remember with Maddie, I've got a picture of her at Christmas where we had bought her like a little plastic kitchen, which was great, filled with all these little tools. And I've got a picture of her spending most of the day, Christmas Day, in the box that it came in. She just wanted to play in the box. She wanted to sit in the box. And she literally got a picture of watching TV, and she was like 5, sat in the box. The kitchen was in the corner. Actually, last year, we just had a couple of things under the tree, and it was such a glorious day. It was just up, pajamas. We didn't have any family around. We just, pleased ourselves, had a fire, ate some nice food, didn't go crazy overboard with that either. Watched a film that we all wanted to watch, and just a couple of little gifts that we all really appreciated. And that's what Christmas should be about. Let's not all get completely stressed.
Okay,
Yes,
right.
should
What's
we
your
start?
start?
Yes.
Who's going first? Shall I go first?
You go first.
Okay, right. So
Excited.
I'm going to start simple. Let's start simple. We can get a bit more complicated later, but let's think about someone that wants to get a bit arty creative. And I thought, right, what about paints and pencils? All right, so I've got all my paints and pencils here. So we just talk about, you think about someone that, okay, coloring pencils. So we all had coloring pencils, but you can get coloring pencils that actually double up as watercolors as well. First one, I want to bring in these. So this is my colored pencils and something. These are things that I use. So, these colored pencils aren't just ordinary pencils. They are pencils, but also watercolor. These ones are by Royale, and I've got some other ones, non-branded ones. They don't have to all be branded. But what's lovely about them is actually you can make marks with them. So like you would just ordinary coloring pencils, but then you can add paint and you can add a paintbrush dipped in water, and then you can just smudge them, and then they act like watercolors. I've also seen people just literally take the pencil like this with a paintbrush, so they've got a paintbrush in some water, and just take the paint off the paintbrush and then paint with the paintbrush. So you can do that.
That's a really good idea, actually, isn't it? If you are on a really small budget, that is great in terms of
so they work really nice. You get a little range of colours, and that works really nice. Quite good fun. I mean, obviously, if you're going to get some, and we use a lot in our tea time tutorials, ordinary watercolor based paints, and there's a lovely vast range of those that you can get from branded like Reed's. They're a good make, so you can get a nice little set like this. This will probably cost you about sort of £5, £6. These ones are the ones that I'm sort of favouring at the moment, which are those really bright, colourful ones, those like what they call brilliant dye-based ones. And these ones are by a company called Koh-i-Noor. So that's KOH-I-Noor, Noor. And anything in the Koh-i-Noor range is a really good sort of quality of pigment. These ones, again, very similar to the Reeves ones there, but you just get a nice little set of different colours to use. And I got these from a company called Art Van Gogh. So I got them. And they also do, these ones are by Koh-i-Noor as well. So these are like a little stack. So these are great because you can take, these are lovely. So you chuck these in your bag. I take these on holiday, and they literally stack up in this little like series of little colors. They try to group the colors together, so we've got browns and reds there, yellows and oranges with a bit of white in there, all the blue tones with the darker black there, and then some greens there as well. So they put them, and then the lid, that becomes the palette. So I don't know if you can see online, that's got little sections in it, so you can mix your colors or get some color in there as well. So I find those ones quite useful also. These are the ones I take away on holiday with me, where ones I tend to have, these ones, which I take sort of like I have in my studio and do work with them. But they're quite portable, to be quite honest. You don't need a lot of set for things like that. They're just like block watercolors. And for anyone that's thinking of doing some artwork, that's a really good starter. Anything in like those types of paints are good. And again, we've already talked about the merits of the coloring pencil, but the water-based coloring pencil, so you can blend those. Right, let me put them down. Okay, Rachel, what about you? What have you got?
Okay, well, now I've got a couple of mindful books, so I'm gonna switch into that mode. So if you're not into anything to do with sort of self-help books on mindfulness, then you can just go past this section. But let me just replace my spotlight with my hands. There we go. So that's another book for later. So just going, because obviously on the channel we talk a lot about self-improvement and mindfulness and everything. So I really like this, but I'm gonna have to just move this book underneath because I know YouTube are very specific about things, so I will come to that in a second. But I really like this book. So it's called Clarity and Connection, and there's the author, Young Pueblo. It's got a huge following on the socials, but it's a really lovely book. Now Gary and I know we sort of have this whole universe sending messages, but sometimes I think if you're seeking an answer, what can be a really good thing to do is just literally open a page and then see what it says in the page and see if it speaks to you. And sometimes it's amazing how it does. I mean, I just literally opened at this page, and this is the kind of thing that you've got in here. So for example, it says here, I don't think you can see it very well on this camera, can you? I think it's a bit blurred, but it says, how many times has everything come crashing down and left you feeling as though the world was over? Now, how many times after grieving have you gotten back up, embraced the power of your determination, and moved forward into a new life? Old patterns do not give up easily. They will try to keep pulling you into reactions that lead into repeating the past. But in time, after not feeding them for a while and continually practicing your ability to pause and respond, they weaken and become easier to let go. They may still appear as an option occasionally, but will not have the same strength as before. This is the turning point, the shift that changes everything, the leap forward you have been waiting for. The victory when it becomes clear that you have moved beyond the past and into a new life where you have matured enough to intentionally be your own person. And I've got to tell you, Gary, I just opened it on that page today, and I cannot tell you how relevant that is to me right now, because
Amazing.
that's what I've been doing. I have been looking at my own patterns of behavior in the last few months, and I'm really trying to change things, and it is incredible, the transformation that I felt in myself. So it's just a little kind of self-help, but what I like about it is just very easy chunks. You know, you don't have to read pages and pages. You can just open it on one thing every day, read it. I mean, this is sweet. We walk time together holding hands as the world changes, living in love as we grow as individuals, meeting each other in the middle as our youth gives way to maturity. They're just sometimes a nice poem that you can just read. It makes you think, it makes you contemplate. It could be your sort of little daily meditation practice, which just gives you a 10-minute, a 10-minute to yourself time. And then the other book, which is the same sort of thing, but I have to be very careful because YouTube don't like anything that is swearing, but it's a subtle art of not giving a flippity-doo-dah. Let's just say that, shall we? A flippity-doo-dah. Now, in this book, the flippity-doo-dah word is mentioned a lot. I'm going to tell you, I read the first 2 chapters and I was a bit like, oh, come on, this is written by someone who's about 8 years old, because it was all angry and da-da-da-da. But actually, no, that was the point. It was brilliant, because then he talks about exactly how to not give a flippity-doo-dah what people think about you, because it's all about yourself. I mean, look, I've just opened it on this page and this springs out. Am I jealous? And if I am, then why? Am I angry? Is she right? Am I just protecting my ego? Questions like these need to become a mental habit. In most cases, the simple act of asking ourselves such questions generates the humility and compassion needed to resolve a lot of our issues. I mean, oh my goodness, I just opened that page. That already is a sentence that makes you think. It's just a great book. And it's written, because the title is How to Stop Giving a Flippity-Doo-Dah. It's written with a kind of tongue-in-cheek sense of humor. So it's not a really heavy self-help book. It's quite funny, but it also does make you think about your patterns of behavior and how to change. And there's the lovely author, Mark Manson. And I think he just started doing a blog, and no one, he thought maybe 2 people would read it. Now it has 2 million viewers. And and he's written this book, and his story of not giving a flippity-doo-dah comes from his life, basically, of always giving a flippity-doo-dah what people felt about him, and where that led him, which was this completely ego-driven life. He wasn't in control of his own life. He just felt lost. And so this book is how he recovered from that, and how you can recover as well. It's a really, really great book. And as I say, let's not look at the naughty words there. But I've seen so many people on the tube reading this, or on buses. I've seen so many people reading this book, as it says there, bestseller. It really is great. And I think if anybody opens that in the morning, it would make them smile. Perhaps not your granny, if she sees that. That's a naughty word. I'm going to whip it away for you.
No. So don't put it not on the coffee table at Christmas Day. Don't hide it away if Granny's coming round.
Okay, so on to you, Gary.
Right, so I'm going to link back into I did sort of mention about brushes. I think brushes, if you're going to do a little bit of artwork, are quite important. But there's all different types of brushes. And if you don't know what people might like, I would recommend a set. And usually you can get little sets, and quite reasonable sets. Obviously, you can spend a lot of money on brushes, but think about the sort of like the middle of the road, rather than your high end or your cheaper, because if they're really, really cheap, they're not going to be that good. So usually you can get like ones with like stable hair, like proper fur and things like that they've used to actually make the brushes, but you can get some really good synthetic brushes as well, and they work just as well. I would recommend at least in your set 1 or 3 of what we call a round brush. So it's round and it comes to a nice point. Different thicknesses. These ones have got sort of like a fine, medium, and a fatter one there. That's quite nice. flatter brushes. So these are flat brushes. So these draw a nice big flat amount of paint across the page, but also you can use them dipped just in clean water and just put water across the page. And there's, again, here's 3. So nice little set of 3. That's quite a nice little present for someone who's thinking of maybe doing a little bit of artwork. And then finally, you might see these. They're almost like novelty, but they're really interesting. What they are brushes. If I take the lids off, you'll see the brushes. So they're brushes like that. So you've got a flat one, you've got a very fine one here in the middle, and a slightly bigger, rounder one at the end there. The lids are for what you do is you fill them up with water. So let me put the lids back on. I know one of them's already got, that one's already got the water in it. So I don't know if you can see that. What you do is you take the back off. So the back comes off. Hang on, let me find one I can get the back off nicely without ruining it. So you unscrew them.
He says.
What am I? The trouble is, don't get water everywhere, especially over your computer in front of you. Believe me, right? They unscrew. It's because I've had them on my side too. They unscrew here, and what you do is you fill them up with water in the middle, and then they're preloaded. So they're like, instead of taking a pot of water with you to like you're on location or whatever, you're going to go and do some painting. What you do is you actually fill these up with water, and then you can dab them into your paint, and then pick up the paint, and then just work away with them. So they're almost a bit like they're a brush come felt tip pen, but you just put water in and then you just pick color up with them. Try not to get the water spraying everywhere over your computer and everything like that, because that's not a good idea.
That's not a good idea.
So there you are. That's just a really nice fun set of brushes just to get you started. And think about in packs of 3. You usually get a nice little range in there for that. Actually, fun enough, I've got a cloth in front of me, so I can just wipe up my table. There you go. Nothing's happened, has it?
Right, shall I show my next item?
Yes, as long as it doesn't spurt out anything.
Gary, there are so many things I could say, but I'm not going to.
I expect you could.
Let's look at this one. And I know Gary another one of these as well. This is a fantastic book. I know we've mentioned it before, but this is a great book. I actually found this in a National Trust shop book, but you can get it online. I bought it in the National Trust shop, but it's really brilliant. And the idea is 365 days of creativity. Well, we give you an exercise every week, don't we? And say, give yourself 20 minutes a week to do something. This is kind of following on from that practice, but it's saying to do something every day. How wonderful to basically get this and, basically open it up on day 1 of the new year. Look, I mean, it's also got lots of information in there as well about what you need, materials and things to be sort of an artist, which is what we're talking about. And then it gives you an exercise every single day of the year. My camera is just blurry for some reason. But here we are. So fill the bowls perhaps with fruit pencils or a random collection. So this is number 1. So she's drawn the bowls, and now you just have to fill them with so you could draw bananas and apples. And the thing is, she's not saying make a piece of art that you would be really proud to show the world. She's saying it's an exercise. It's a doodle for your mind. So, just have fun with it. Number 2, explore using a variety of different materials alongside each other. Be playful and embrace any smudges or marks. So you're just literally making marks, which is what we always say in our classes. This is nice. Reflect. Taking time to create without a specific goal is a great way to spark inspiration. Just enjoy the process. Now, on the podcast, the Breaking the Blocks podcast that I'm just launching in January, I interviewed Cindy Grisella, and she quoted as her daily motto Picasso's phrase that he said, which is that inspiration will find you, but when you're working. Basically, that's not the exact words, but you have to work in order to be inspired. And this is what she's saying, create without a specific goal is a great way to find inspiration.
So I've got my version in front of me. So it's the same. It's 365 days, and my days of art. I think they're the same. I mean, yours is what's yours? Creativity.
Yeah, mine is creativity. So let's just see how they're different. I'll bring mine up as well as yours. Yeah, today explore
What?
using a brush pen with watercolor to draw something from your home. Remember to consider the shadow of the object too. I mean, they are all still drawing exercises. So I'm not sure why what
Yeah,
the difference is.
it must be the same. It's so I think there are different projects within there. They're not the same projects, they're different. So my one's called 365 Days of Art, and yours is 365 Days of Creativity, and it's exactly the same. So what I like about these books is actually that you're encouraged to work in there. So it's like an adult version of a coloring book, but it's not just coloring in the shapes, it's actually activity. So she might start you off with a couple of ideas, then you've got to carry on with that idea within the book. So that's quite a nice sort of thing to do. So you work in the book as you go through each day, just keep you, you know, active creatively within there. And I've used quite a few ideas, extracted some ideas, or I've expanded on some of the ideas from this book. So I really quite like this one.
Yeah, I really like it. I mean, like this one here, you know, draw lots of little pictures of all the everyday objects you've used today. This is something you can even do in bed. You know, instead of
Yeah,
taking it to read, you could just take
yeah,
a coloring pencil and just draw all the objects. Oh,
yeah,
there's my toothbrush and the toothpaste. There's a mug
yeah.
that I use for my coffee and my cereal. Oh, I'll draw a milk carton or a milk bottle. You know,
Mm.
oh, there's my diary that I wrote in today. There's my computer that I use. There's my phone. You know, and like I say, these are. It doesn't matter what they look like in the end. I mean, this one
Yeah.
is other one as well, which I just saw, and I don't know where it was. And she said, just choose a word and draw it and write it. Choose you know, an empowering word. So I do love these books. I think they are
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic. So I
So,
would highly recommend those.
exactly. And I think while we're on books, I'll bring up some other books. So we're doing a little, this is like our book section. So if you sort of
Yes,
like to buy a book for someone for Christmas.
yes,
So these are sort of like, these 365 days are giving you sort of inspiration and little projects for every day. But you might want to learn technique. So I've got three technique recommendations. So three books, first of all. This one, 5-minute watercolor. So if you want to expand on your watercolors, these are lovely, of little techniques, using things like, you know, a wash with throwing some salt over that wash to get this little speckled effect. Um, exploring colors and what colors work well, layering and glazing. So it's a 5-minute watercolor book, super quick techniques for amazing paintings. This one's by Samantha Nielsen and it's published by Search Press. Lovely, lovely book. And so if you really like to have a little play with your watercolors and you want to just start to improve on some of your techniques, there is loads of things like basic how to make your the paint bloom, how do you make that sort of bloom, dry brushing, pulling from color, using masking fluids. And these things that we have sort of introduced in some of our tea time tutorials, but it's all sort of contained within a book, watercolor book. The other one is mixed media. So, you know, I like mixing things up, like my collage within painting. I like to use magazines, like cut things out of magazines, tear things, paint over things. And this is a lovely, again, lots of techniques in this little book, using all different types of acrylic paints with gesso, using stencils, using found objects, dripping ink onto things, patching things up with, you know, like collage, found and repurposed materials. A lovely, lovely little book to get you started, or just to start to inspire you. So it's 101 mixed media techniques, master the fundamental concepts of mixed media art. And yeah, so I'd just say if you just Google the title, 101 mixed media techniques, and you recognize the front of this cover, you're going to be finding that book. So that one is for that. And then I don't know if you've seen, and you know, Rachel, we've done that visible mending project and we've got it online, haven't we? We've done it as a workshop, and I have covered it a little bit in tea time tutorials, where the concept is you mend a garment or you patch something up textile wise, but you make it really decorative. And this book is called Mending Life, a handbook for repairing clothes and hearts, which is really nice. It's by Nina and Sonia Montenegro. And lovely, really nice little illustrations, really simple. And I've talked about this, how to actually go from measuring a length of thread to threading your needle. So in this illustration here, they're showing, I always say, only measure to just past your elbow, the length of thread, how to use the thread, cut it at an angle. Here, they say cut it at an angle and then thread it through your needle. Single with a knot, double with a knot. So some basic techniques of actually just from threading a needle to like darning, how to darn on sort of something that's knitted, how to repair a patch, you know, underneath you've got a tear in something, how to stick it underneath and then stitch on the top, how to decorate or actually to mend a little cuff that's all sort of like frayed, how to use a piece of fabric to just use that as a little patch. And they've illustrated it here. Lovely, lovely book. You know, this book, in fact, you want to have or make holes in your garments just so you can repair them, to decorate them, to customize them, and to make them something a little bit unique. I love the idea of visible mending. And so that's the book, Mending Life. Lovely little book. Anything within that sort of range, I think someone would be really quite happy with. And it's quite mindful. It's a mindful repairing activity. So that's my book recommendations for art and for sewing.
Lovely. Well, talking about sewing, I've got a couple of books that I would like to recommend. They are Teachers with Crafty Monkeys. So these are the books that I know a lot about because I own this one. And I just think in terms of an inspiring book to look through, this is from Sarah Hibbert, an amazing quilter. But I think if you want to sit down with a coffee table book and just look at an image every day to just either make you laugh, because she's got some very funny images in here, or just smile, or look at some colors. But she also, of course, gives you instructions of how to make all of these wonderful patterns. So it's not just, you know, look at my work, it's how to make these things. But look, you know, cracked up, she's a lot of eggs. There is the lovely Sarah herself.
There she is.
With her husband. She is an amazing artist, very inspirational, beautiful, beautiful quilting. And it's just a lovely book to look through on a regular basis. Oh, look, there now in my podcast interview with her, I said, your work reminds me of Andy Warhol. And there's actually a picture of her in the book.
There we are. Yeah.
So that's funny. But yeah, it's a lovely, lovely book. But, you know, collage, how to get started. So this is a great sort of crossover book for our people who watch us, Gary, because she is a collage to quilt artist. So she makes collages every day. She called it her meditation. She does a 10-minute collage every day without fail. And then some of them will make it into quilts. But that's interesting. So she talks about collage there and how to collect all of those and make those as art. So a lovely book for anybody who, you know, either is into art or sewing. So that's that. And I will just give a little nod, because he'll kill me if I don't. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to give a little nod to Mr. Ball, because his book is coming out, is Use and Ornament. I'm only saying this because I know that we have got millions of people, well, not millions, but in every class, Gary, the question is, Nicholas, when is your book coming out? Because that's his first one, The Inspiring Improv. And this is the second one, Use and Ornament. This is due out now. Apparently, Waterstones have said in time for Christmas. Now, I'm not saying that is true, but last night in a meeting, it came up again, and this lady said, well, my husband's bought it for me because it says in time for Christmas at Waterstones. So who knows, but it is on the verge. Apparently, it's on the verge. But a lovely book by a very talented quilter, Mr. Nicholas Ball. His first book, Inspiring Improv. Funnily enough, the lady who has ordered the second book, she was not she was a quilter, but she only had done traditional quilting. And then she found this book, Inspiring Improv, and she thought, well, the title does it all, doesn't it? She didn't know who he was, didn't know what it was, but she did. She bought it, and then she signed up for the Year's VIP Club off the back of this book. That's how inspired she was by that book.
Wow, that's really good.
Yeah, to do some improv. So there you go.
Yeah.
My 3 sewing books for you to have a think about. And I'm not going to go, I mean, I could talk about a million others, but I'm going to talk about those because everybody has loved his book, is excited about the new one, and the Sarah Hibbert. I've read it and I think it's amazing.
Okay, so the next project, or the next gift that I think is a really good idea, is some mini cutting mats. So underneath here, the table, I've got my big cutting mat, and a lot of people that do, you know, sewing and quilting and things like that, they've got the big cutting mat like this. But you can get little mini ones like this. literally, I think I picked this one up from a show and it was only £1. Then you might not be as lucky as that to get one, but this is like a little mini cutting mat. And why I like the mini cutting mat is because it can just go into my sewing box. I can just chuck it in there if I'm going to go and visit someone and do a little demonstration. It's ideal. And then you can get the next size up. So they said that's an A5, that's an A4. And obviously you can get a big one, but a cutting mat is a really nice little gift, especially a new cutting mat. It's really quite nice. You get something a bit small like that. It's nice. It's handy to have in your kit. And again, it might be nice if someone is beginning to get interested in maybe doing some quilt blocks or things like that, is obviously a cutting wheel, a cutting blade, which you can get all different types, but this one's quite just a basic one. And you can get spare blades for it and everything like that. But again, it's for, you know, cutting. We all know what, if you're in the sort of like doing all your quilting and everything like that and sewing, you can do that. All I'd say was, and I know we've seen these on the Sewing Bee, and that's for making garments, but I would not recommend a cutting blade like this, a roller blade, for cutting out garments. Yes, you can cut straight lines, but you really need something to cut up against. Cutting curves isn't really that, it's not really great for cutting curves. And what you need to be careful of, if you're cutting curve, is to keep your fingers away, because I don't know if you watch out, and next time anyone watches editions of the Sewing Bee, have a look how many plasters they've got on their fingers. So I'd say no more. So that is my recommendation.
Lovely. Okay.
Lovely.
Here we are. This was recommended by the lovely Jenny Pickett from Clover and Violet. She absolutely loves these Hula bottles. Now, of course, they're saying for hairdressing or for spraying plants. But what she uses them for is to spray her fabrics with a very light mist. So then you can nice cool iron, which means you can get all the creases out. It's a simple thing. And she said she absolutely loves them and they're very inexpensive, as you can see. So for any sewer,
yeah.
I think these look stylish. They kind of look as well, you know, they do look like a sort of sewing bottle to me. If you got out of your sewing stash, somebody would probably think that it was a, you know, made for sewers spray bottle, which it's not. But I do think they are nice. They do look clean. They do look like a nice gift. I think that's just a lovely little stocking filler. I don't know why they are different in price. You'd have to look at the differences there. Maybe it's the sizes of them or something. I don't know. But yeah. They are called Hulas. I have looked, they're available in America and England as well. So, or the UK. So you can get them everywhere on the old Amazon. Of course, I'm not recommending you go to Amazon. And Gary and I are not affiliated to any of these things that we're talking about, but I'm just saying that Amazon is worldwide and you can get them there. So that's an idea. But go on.
Actually, it's good for looking on Amazon to sort of like, if you're doing that window shopping, have a look. You don't necessarily, we're not saying you've got to buy it for Amazon, because it just, but I use it for inspiration as well. Just think about those prices. I reckon you get like the really sleek metallic-y finished ones. I think you've got to pay more for, and that looks like to me. Yes. They look really smart. So am I allowed? I think yours is a top trump. Mine's like a menial trump here now, because actually I had spray bottles. So if we got the spray, I've got spray bottles, but they don't look quite as sophisticated as you. But I think these, so it depending on your budget or whatever, what you want to do. These are little water spray bottles. And I picked these up from the chemist. I think that you can even get them in like the supermarkets. And they're quite often they're used. This one even says spray travel bottle. So they're spray travel bottles. They're for decanting, but they are great, like exactly what you were showing me for doing the ironing. But you know, I use mine for spraying on my artwork. So if I go back to my paints, well, look out, Gary's got the water out again. You spray, I'm not going to do it because I'm feeling an accident prone today, but you spray your palette of colors and then they almost like activate them, because you put a mist of water across your paints. It's much easier with your brush then to then pick up the color. You can also spray onto paper. So say, for instance, you've got some paper, you can spray the paper, have a mist of water, and then you can get painting on that as well. So that's another technique. So yes, it's not a top trump, Rachel. I think you've beat me there, but these are more your sort of lower range bottles, but great for those little extra stocking fillers or a little quirky little fun gift that you can just give someone, especially if they're creative, and say, here's a spray bottle. And honestly, if I got a spray bottle like this, I'd be made over, because it's like, yes, I got another spray bottle. I know that sounds mad. But yes.
Yeah, but these are little, this is what I'm saying. These are little things that if you buy these gifts, you really, it looks like you really have thought about the person that you're buying for. So
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Well, I've got another lovely gift. I'm going to share my screen again. These are pin cushions, but as you can see, well, who do we think that is?
That's David Bowie. That's Ziggy
Yes.
Stardust.
Yep. And then, okay,
I've got it. It's Freddie Mercury.
Freddie Mercury.
Princess Leia from Star Wars.
Yeah, I think it is Princess Leia. She's called it Layla, but I think it's Leia. And then we've got this person, Vote. Oh, that's Emily Pankhurst.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Anyway, but
I mean, if you're just talking, you know, pin cushions, I mean, again, if you are a sewer or sewist, if you like, you know, just making loads of lovely little pin cushions, I've seen some lovely little blocked, you know, stitched together and made some things, you know, and just make them, give them out to friends, people that sew. A nice idea, you know, nice idea for a gift. Very nice. I'm going to talk about these boxes. Okay, right. So I keep my sewing stuff in like little mini toolboxes or about a large toolbox. In fact, I've got a much larger plastic clear one that I keep a lot of my stuff in. I'm not, obviously, as a guy that does sewing, even artwork, you know, as well. When we were at art school, we always had one of these little tiny little or a toolbox to put our art equipment in. I think they're great. I'm not someone that's going to have a little padded basket with my needlework in. And I'm not saying that, you know, I'm not dismissing them at all, but they're not really right for me. But so for me, I love these little toolboxes. These ones are not very expensive. This one's got all my beads in. So I keep all my beads. So when I'm doing my beading, sequins, bits and pieces like that in any of my work, I only had this, I got this out yesterday because we were doing some work where we were adding some sequins and bits and pieces to some decoration on some things. So there's that one. This one again, it's got several different layers. You've got a layer in the top. I've got all my, this one's for my embroidery thread. So in the top, I could put all some embroidery threads there. Then I go inside, and inside I've got all my perlé threads. I keep all my perlé threads in like that. So and in fact, this is under my desk. What's going under my desk now? This was in a toolbox section of the supermarket, and this is just sections, lots of sections, and these are all little cards with embroidery threads on. I think the initial intention was for nuts, bolts, screws, and nails.
Yes,
but I'm thinking, no, I'll put that in there. Yeah. So, you know, what I'm saying is, you know, think out, you're thinking a little bit outside the box. You might just get someone a toolbox and just, you could put some suggestive things in there. It could be you put your art materials. So you buy some of those basic art materials, you put that in the box for a person for a gift. Or you take the toolbox and you put some sewing things in there relating to sewing. So you give the suggestion what it's used for. And I just think it's practical, but it's a really nice gift to have. So that's my next suggestion of gifts and presents. So anything practical, toolbox wise, to just store your sewing or your art equipment in. And that's really quite nice. Let's talk needles. Okay, sewing needles, a great little, again, stocking filler. Now, you can buy someone a pack of needles. And again, this could go into the shirt box idea or to the toolbox idea, but needles, there's all different types of needles, but just if someone's starting off, get them just a variety pack of needles, obviously. But these ones are quite nice. These ones are the gold tipped ones. So they're not necessarily, just because I say they're tipped in gold, that they're going to cost you a fortune. They don't cost you a lot of money. And in fact, this little pack came as a little gift surprise. I'd ordered something online, some embroidery hoops. And in with the embroidery hoops, this is really not quite nice sometimes when you order stuff, someone gives you a little extra gift. So they're not going to be that expensive, even if you just buy them outright. But the idea about the gold tipped on the top is like all of us find it quite difficult to thread the needle. But if it's tipped in gold at the top, you've got that different change in color to actually then aim that thread through. The gold also is slightly softer, and so what happens is it's like smoother, so the thread goes through so much better than if it's not coated in gold. I'm not saying if you just buy an ordinary pack of needles like this one, which aren't gold tipped, that they're not any good. They are, they're still, but those ones are like quite nice and special. And you can always make a thing about, oh, I've bought you some gold tipped needles. So if you're going to buy some needles for someone, that's really nice little stocking filler, or to put it into those boxes, some needles are going to be a really good practical thing to buy person. All right, next one. I better write, we're down to scissors. Scissors, again, really obvious in a way, but there's lots of different types of scissors. So if you think someone, you can have from nice big fabric shears. So these are your high-end market ones. These ones are Frisco's. Again, a really good make. And I would say, if you're going to buy someone some scissors for dressmaking, particularly, get a well good brand. So get a good brand, a good weight of scissors. These ones might be a little bit too heavy for a lady, so you might want to get a like slightly large, smaller pair like this one for a lady, but those ones are proper good fabric shears. And then you've got smaller scissors to use for embroidery, so you can get these ones, are really nice little decorative set of embroidery scissors, really pretty. You get some sort of shape like a little animals, like a little stalk or something like that. Or again, you could get ones which these ones. So these ones are titanium coated, which is supposed to give you longer sharpness for longer life. And actually, I've had these for quite a while, and they are still very, very sharp. And they're quite a nice size for me. I quite like those. So you could buy someone a little pair of scissors. And again, if someone's just starting off doing dressmaking or sewing or anything in that environment, then you could just buy them a little set of one pair of scissors and a pair like that, and that would be lovely to put into their little gift of getting them started to do some sewing. Lovely. Where are we? Now my favorite, and I know, Rachel, you like these, don't you?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And actually, as well, Gary, while we're there, let me just share my screen again. And this is called the London Graphic Centre. I'm not sure if it does worldwide delivery. I'm sure that you can find the equivalent in another country, wherever you are. But this is a great place to buy all sorts of things. Look, we have got painting, drawing. I mean, look, you've got surfaces there, so you've got all of your pads, everything, and absolutely brilliant. I remember going into this place actually when I'm in London, and it's just, oh, you could stay in there forever. But the great thing is that they have got here all sorts of paints and things. But I believe when I was looking for the, I'm sure I just put in Posca Pens and they came up. Let's have a look. I've got Posca. Yeah, so look, you've got Posca pencils. But also, I believe, is that the same set that you've got on your, I think this is the same set that you've got on your table, Gary.
Yeah, that one there. Yeah, so what you got there for £17.50 is probably the same set. Is actually what I'm looking at. It'd be the one on the right, the far end of the one on the right. They're the one. That's, yeah, the next one's, Rachel. What was the other set?
That's it.
And they were the ones that I've got on my. So these Posca pens, what they are, they're like, imagine like a felt tip in a way, but they're not a felt tip, because in fact what you've got in them is you've got acrylic paint or acrylic ink actually inside the actual tube, and there's a little ball bearing inside that's mixing the paint up and down inside, so it's just making that, mixing it up, and then you've got a nib that you need to then get the paint to flow through so it paints. What's nice, it's because you can be quite accurate. You can draw with these, but because it's acrylic ink, you can go over stuff. So say, for instance, you did a collage with bits of paper, or you did a watercolor painting, then what you can do is use these to then go over the top to highlight or to draw around lines or to write words in or something like that. So they're really quite nice. And this is a great little beginner set. You've got a variety of colors, but of course, I don't know if any of you have been following some of our tutorials, my favorite is the white. I love a white Posca pen. So even if you didn't want to go to £17.50 to buy the whole pack, just one white Posca pen as a little gift in the stocking for those arty crafty people is great. So you could get that one, and that is my favorite, my white Posca pen. I would definitely be very happy to receive on Christmas Day in my stocking. So that's that.
Lovely. Okay, well, lovely YouTube. We had a technical moment there, so we've put Gary onto a different camera, so you can see now we've got this elevated look down on Gary, but he was sort of doing strange.
It's funny. There's something going on that we've had the squirting of the water across the computer. Great idea. Yeah, and then the screen's going funny. So yeah, I think we're actually. Didn't I see something came up on my newsfeed that there is a solar storm at the moment? We're having a solar storm. And that does affect electrical devices and connections. So
Oh,
that could be.
isn't Mercury going into retrograde soon as well? And you know it's always a nightmare. Communication's always a
And
nightmare.
how we love those retrogrades.
We love them. We love them. Things always go wrong in the retro. Even my daughter now, she'll say to me, you know, after a week of just stuff going on, she'll come to me and go, Mother, is there a Mercury? She'll never get this right. She'll always go, is there a Mercury, you know, neograde or whatever she calls it? I go, you mean retrograde. She hasn't got a clue what it means. I go, yes, it is. It's in retrograde. And she go, when is it going out of it?
Oh.
It's true. Things always go wrong. Anyway, do you know what? That's been a lot of fun, Gary. And I think there's been some cracking ideas there. I really do. Yeah, just lovely little stocking fillers. And like I say, I'd be really happy if I got a Posca pen. So, you know, there's some nice things there and great things for everybody, taking on board the mindfulness, the doodling, the artist, the sewing. So, yeah, that's been wonderful. So thank you for sharing that with me, Gary. And thank you to you, lovely YouTuber. Of course, as we always say, please give us a thumbs up if you've enjoyed that content. And if you've got any gift ideas, put them in the chat below. Please comment. You know, if anybody's ever bought you anything lovely, it doesn't mean that there's a link to where you can buy it. If you've got a lovely story, we do love the comments and we do respond to all of them. So please do leave us a comment below. That would be fantastic. Yeah, well, we will be back next week with the tea time tutorial. In fact, Gary and I are not taking any time off because we're going to keep going. So even on the Christmas week, there will be a tea time tutorial for you, and that will be a creative task. So we'll see you next time, whenever that may be. But as I say, if you want to go back and look at something creative right now, over 70 videos to play with. So thank you very much from, I don't know who is Mrs. Santa Claus, Mr. and Mrs. I'm Mrs. I've got the sparkle. We shall say goodbye.